All right, let's go ahead and get started. This is the meeting of the Bond Accountability Committee, established to assist in monitoring the progress of executing the Beaverton School District 2022 bond program, and we are responsible to the school board. The date is May 28th. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be posted on the Beaverton website. Welcome, everyone. BAC members, representatives of the school board, facility staff. No guests, right?
No guests.
No guests, okay.
Oh, we've got a couple of guests.
Well, I just meant.
No public comments.
You guys are public. You're I'd like to remind everyone to use the microphones, but we don't have them. So what that means is, please speak up. There's one item right there in the middle that's trying to get all of us. So please speak clearly and loudly. And let's look at the agenda really quick. I guess no public comments. I have a couple items for committee business. And then we'll do a Beaverton High School update and tour. You may have noticed the hard hats and the other safety gear. Then Aaron will do an update on the board goals relative to the bond, and we'll review the bond financial report. And following that, we'll adjourn. Anything else that people think ought to be on there that isn't? Okay, then we'll go ahead and get started. So the first thing for the Bond Accountability Committee business, I made a short presentation at the May 13th school district board meeting. Mentioned a few things. I mentioned how diverse our group is. It's really interesting. We have expertise in so many different things. It's, you know, everything from real estate and financial management to design and construction, and a couple of people who actually have experience with running something like this for a different public entity. So it's really a good diverse group, which I think helps us. I also mentioned that what we've basically said in our reports, which is based on our review of the information that's being presented in these meetings and also received on a monthly basis, we believe that the current bond is meeting our charter objectives and the school board's program goal. And I gave a couple of specific examples showing why that was true, and didn't get any hard questions, which was nice. And the board actually congratulated the facilities group for their work effectively delivering the bond to date. So overall, it was a nice summary, nice meeting. And I left before it became contentious, so I don't know what else you guys discussed. The schedule for next year's meeting are set, and I didn't put it in any kind of a report, and neither did you probably, but maybe we can just tell them what they are as part of your program.
Yeah, actually, Eric, if you go down to the very last slide of the whole presentation, I've got it in there, and we can revisit this later.
Okay, if you do, then that's fine, because then people will have it in writing, right?
Yeah. In fact, I'll put it in front of you.
Okay, perfect. There we go. And so just a reminder that there's one more meeting this year, which is on June 18th, which is a site tour meeting. And then on August 20th, there's a project tour meeting. And then those other dates are just normal sitting meetings like, you know, we normally have at the district administrative office. And then project tours again at the end of next calendar school year.
So that one will be fun because that will be touring the complete Valley Hills and the almost complete Beaverton High School.
Great.
Can I ask you a question on project tours?
Yeah.
Can outsiders like parents or community members join us or no?
You know, we're not really set up to do that.
Oh,
You know, we have limited PPE and limited, you know, we're going to take a school bus for that. So it's someone.
good to know. Thanks.
And then the last thing I have is this is my last sitting meeting as the chair. The June meeting is project tour, so it's out of, you know, it's not a formal meeting. And Keith, to my right here, takes over next year as the chair of our group. So and that's all I had. Yeah, and then it's, you know, I'll just sit here and make fun of him.
Perfect. So sorry about the kind of choppy agenda for tonight. I wanted to do the tour early so we can get out there while, have the most daylight available, and we don't want Alan and Patrick to have to stay here all night. So, appreciate it. So Jeff is going to give an update on the project, and then we'll go tour, and then we can come back and finish the rest of the agenda.
Yeah. Well, welcome everybody to Beaverton High School. This is where we live and breathe every day in here, where the magic happens. Us and all of our team. So just want to start out with, we'll go out on the site and obviously see this in a little more detail. Just want to give you some high level summary of where we're at the project. So the first picture to the right down here is a overall view of the site and the building. This is from about a week and a half ago, so you can see the progress where we're at in the building. We've got exterior metal wall panel siding starting over here, and we've started wrapping around the north facade, and we're actually moving almost all the way around here with our metal siding. Our metal wall panel system is actually all the way around the building. So this is, like I said, this is an old picture here. So we actually just completed all of our metal wall panel systems besides a couple of small patch panels and miscellaneous stuff. But by and large, that modular system that we put together for this project has all been assembled and is all now on the building hanging right now. Couple other things to note, the areas in white, we have a final roofing actually in place here. It's progressed to about here. We just got done today loading all kinds of roofing material, so we'll move our final roofing down here, and we have temp roofing right here right now, and then we'll get temp roofing and move roofing around this way. We hope to have the roofing in this portion of the building dried in by the end of June. When you get out on site, you'll see, Eric, if you want to go to the next slide, we've got a lot of things going on inside. We've got our MEP rough-in going in everywhere. We've got metal stud framing pretty much going on throughout the building right now. Got a shot of the theater, which you'll see here. We actually started assembling the dance floor scaffolding today. So that's going to start getting built up. We've actually already poured these elevated stair system last week. So we'll walk around, and as we walk around, we'll get to see more of the progress of the building. If you go to the next slide, Eric, just want to kind of highlight some of the stuff that we have going on. The major milestones, next summer, July 6th, is our building substantial completion date. So that's when Skanska turns the building over to us and lets us get ready to move everybody in and have the building ready for kids the beginning of that school year. And then the phase 2 substantial completion is July 30th of the following year. So that allows us to get all of our exterior site work done, a couple of miscellaneous outbuildings, everything wrapped up, and have everybody out of here by the following summer. We've had some really big milestones, like I mentioned, the exterior panel system. All those panels have been set. So 412 panels are now out there on the building. That went really fast. Interior framing, we're about 55% complete on that east half of the building and about 15% on the west half. We have the building separated by the seismic joint, so we refer to it as the east and west side because it's separated right at the seismic joint. Our building concrete is pretty much done, 98% right now, complete inside the building. Mechanical and wet dry systems, about 45% complete. Our air handlers are going on this weekend, so that's a huge, big milestone for us. We actually have all of our air handlers. We've received them all now, so that was we were all worried about when they're going to come. Are we going to have them all site? Are we going to have tariffs applied to them when they come in? But they're all local now. We have all of our air handlers for both the east and west side. Setting the east side this weekend, and the west side we're currently planning for July 19th. So that'll be a big deal if you're driving around. You'll see a big crane and those things swinging around in the air, which is always kind of fun. Our brick veneer in the building is about 75% complete. We don't have a lot of brick veneer. It's primarily on the bottom of the building, but it's about 75% complete. And the electrical rough-in for the building is almost 40%. It's probably actually a little more than So this is some big milestones where the project is. One of the things I know you asked us to talk about a little bit was schedule and schedule management, right? So wanted to talk briefly about how some of the tools that we use for tracking our schedule. And this is one of the things we've been working over the past couple of months to really dial this in. But what this is a graph that's showing our activities of the project on a monthly basis. And then it goes up to where we are right now in May of 2025. And it actually, you know, the graph gets longer. I just got a snippet here. The blue graph is the earliest our activities can finish based on that schedule to get us our substantial completion date in the building of next year. Our orange line is the late finish, right? So that's the latest those activities can finish. That's got the float built in. As you can see, we're progressing really close to that early finish line. So the project is really tracking really well on time. We're staying really close to that early finish dates. And so it's really been a testament to our team on how well we've been able to stay closer to that than we are closer to late finish, even though we've had a lot of, you know, there's things that come up that we have to deal with, and we're still able to, you know, pivot and do different things and stay on schedule. We've had a real big setback with our Farmington street work. Ziply, one of our partners, not our partners, but one of the utility partners, we were supposed to be in the street last year. Started going out there, started doing some potholing, discovered there's a big duct bank out there of Ziply's that has to be moved. That's taken us almost a year just to get them out here and to start that work. We're hopeful they'll have that work done by August. But you don't move a utility that quickly, as many of you probably know, right? So what we've had to do is pivot a little bit, and we've tried to do as much as we can on 2nd Street and on Erickson, and then on Stott Street this summer. One of the things when we first built the schedule, we had all of our street work happening during the summer times. And so now we've had to move some of that into the school year just because we've lost that time. Doesn't impact our completion of the project. It just makes logistics a little harder for when the kids are here, but most of the impacts, almost all the impacts are on Stott Street. And we've had closures on Stott Street all year this year, and really was fine. We have a way for the buses to get around it. Don't really foresee it being that much of a problem. All of our major street shutdowns for Erickson, which is the major thoroughfare over here to our west, all that's happening this summer. So, and then another tool that we use, next slide, Eric.
Before you go at that one.
Yeah.
Just, I think I heard this, and I want to make sure I understand right. Even if the project fell back to the yellow line, you'd still hit the major milestones that
Correct.
you identified.
Yeah, as the graph, as you scale out on the graph, these two lines come together at the building substantial completion date. Yeah, so even if we were at green, we would still meet our schedule and open the building on time. Yeah. And then just some other tools we've gone through with our teams and identified some high leverage activities that are in the schedule. And we sit down monthly and go over those activities and how they're progressing. This is only a small snapshot of those milestone activities that we look at. But what we look at is we have dates here, which are those late finish dates that I talked about. And then we have our current, which is the date that this is expected to be complete, when that activity is expected to be complete. And then the green is either green or red, depending on if it's before or if it's after that date. So you can see all these activities are ahead of the late finish date by a number of days. And then what we do is when we look at this monthly, this actually extends out to 6 weeks. And we can track how these dates are moving, right? So if this HVAC startup was at, let's say it was at May 25th, but then it started pushing into June and then in July, we would start asking questions, what's going on with that specific activity? There's actually another column down here that starts to tell us what the previous change is to see just week to week. But then we also have this whole thing to look at, and that's how we kind of look at these major activities and see where we may have some slippage and where we've had to pivot. So those are just some of the tools that we're using to track the project schedule. The schedule is still in a really good place. We've been, we have a great team here, right? And we're always constantly looking at that and making sure that we're driving to get to that. You know, the school's going to open next September, no matter what we do, and everybody here knows that and is working towards them. Um, so yeah, that's all I had for at least the presentation portion. I think, you know, the meat and potatoes is out there in the field, so looking forward to getting you guys out there and walking around. While we're out there, I'll lead, but Patrick and Alan with Skanska, our partners, feel free to ask them any questions. They're just as knowledgeable in the project as I am. We'll try to keep close together while we're out there, obviously. So please stay with everybody while we're out there. Do you guys have any questions for us?
What does phase two sustainability means? Like you're gonna have kids in July 26th.
Mhm.
Then the phase two finishes 27. So what does that?
So phase two. So as soon as next summer starts, we start tearing down the old building. So it's demolishing the old building. It's these new parking lots. We have a field house that we have to build. We have to go through the baseball and softball fields and completely redo those. So it's all the site work
Okay.
that's happening, and then getting rid of the existing building and building the new facilities that go with the existing building.
Where the kids are, it's all done. They're safe. Everything is good.
Yeah. The building gets turned over. We move everybody out.
Yeah.
And they get in. They start the 2026 school year in the new building, and then we're demoing the old building right next to it.
There's a pretty good map right here. And sorry for all those of you that can't see it, but Alan could probably point out.
The existing building goes away, the field work, here's the new field house.
Yeah.
We're currently parking in the tennis courts, so then we build new tennis courts up to the north and do the field house and then finish out the site.
What, and the ones, when they tear down the old ones, that's gonna be parking lot?
Two large parking lots,
Two
yes.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That gets done first, I assume, so that you have parking when the students and teachers come back in the fall.
Not necessarily, no.
They don't have the parking right now, so
Yeah.
they've learned to
Oh,
live
that's
with it.
okay.
Right, yeah, so they're kind of, that's our worst parking situation is the beginning of that school year. We have other parking existing right now that they'll utilize, but the beginning of the school year, it gets really tight. I don't think we turn on those parking lots till later in the spring of that year. So it is next to, 26 is really tight for parking.
How big is the school? How many kids do we have?
How many kids currently go here? It's like 1,400
It's
or
a
so.
little, 14. And it's built for 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That work on Farmington, is it just street improvements or does it have utility tie into the building?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the above.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, bro.
Crosswalks, all kinds of fun stuff.
All right.
Yeah, so that's
We no
not,
longer have the train crossing we have to do.
we don't have to do that
Yeah.
crosswalk.
We were conditioned to do the train crossing, but I got out of that.
So,
Gotcha.
but we've been able to get a lot done on Second Street down by the baseball stadiums, and we'll get Erickson, most of that done, a big chunk of that done on the northern half of the building, and most of the style work will all be done this summer as well. So, yeah. We'll end up having road closures in Farmington. What happens next year during the school year, Farmington will be shut down, which we are trying to avoid during the school year, but we're just going to have to do it.
Yep.
So that's the biggest kind of thing that we've had to do is move that work during the school year instead of trying to keep it happening in the summertime. So, but Sipley's been out there with Farmington shut down for 3 weeks now, and it's working. So it'll be the same. So. Okay, well, if
Cool.
there's not any more questions and you guys are ready, just go ahead and grab some thing of PPE here, and then we'll all meet out there on the 14th.
Jason,
just keep this on.
I'm gonna ask Nate about that.
You're up.
All right, we got everybody. Okay. And we're back on our live.
Yeah, you can definitely get that.
In order for the live stream to list, we have to have Kate, who is our communication specialist, back at the other office, sitting in their control booth.
Oh.
Like he normally does. So we're giving him the thumbs up, so, you know.
It's real high tech.
High tech, man.
Yeah. Okay, let's see, Jeff or Eric, do you want to move down to the,
Yeah, let me, real quick, do the screen share here.
okay, so last year in April, we gave an update on our performance relative to the school board goals for the bond program. So this is just an update to it. Last year's was kind of, it was very comprehensive, but it's a little bit dry too. So this year I pulled out just 5 of the little snippets from the school board goals, and we're going to talk about some things we're proud of that we're doing relative to each of them. So Jason's going to talk about our design review process, where we're at with equity contracting and career learning up phase. Eric's going to talk a little bit about some of our modernization projects, which there's a picture right there of the Barnes Elementary School gym, which is a recent modernization project. And then I'll talk about some of the efficiency and libraries.
That's the gym.
Got that on my.
It's a new program.
Mental. Yeah, that's.
He was just checking.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It's a test. And then we'll talk about efficiency and sustainability. Take it away, Jason.
Awesome. So I thought we'd just touch on some of our bond program goals here, and then maybe try to relate back to some of the decision making that we go through and how we do our design review process, which I think is unique to the district. Not many other owners or public agencies take it to this level. So some of our goals include managing the bond resources diligently and prudently. Really making sure that we are cognizant that the dollars are not overly plentiful, and that we need to make sure that they go as far as they can go. The next goal that we have is to ensure that our school environments are comfortable, safe, secure, and seismically sound. The next one is, really has to do with long-term maintenance and making sure that that we're being mindful of our construction costs, improving our processes as we go along, that our buildings are efficient and last a long time. Just because the day one cost for something is lower doesn't mean that 30 years from now that material was worth the investment. So we'd be really mindful of that. And then we really want to make sure that we maximize value. And so with like I was saying before, really maximizing the making sure the initial investment pencils out long term, and that we're ensuring that all of the dollars are going to the intended outcome of the project. And one of the things that we kind of measure that against is that we have to live with the building for 50 to 100 years. We're not building 20-year buildings or temporary structures. That's not the approach of the school district. And so that means that we really have to be mindful of the space being adaptable. It has to be have an impact on the users in the environment, and we have to be just a good steward of the community's resources in that regard. And I just put a quick graphic up here that kind of shows that the construction costs might represent a little over 50% of the long-term value of the asset, but maintaining that asset is almost equal to the upfront cost. So if we're not mindful of that, we build something that's just not sustainable to keep operating. The next slide. So as it relates to our design review process, which I'll describe in more detail in the next slide, really what we're looking to do is assess the design's compliance with the district project requirements. So those requirements could be like a programmatic requirement. They could be things like our technical specifications, which we have every division of the CSI represented. or it could be our education specification. So, ratio of classrooms to support spaces and things like that. And really what we're looking for here is where are we deviating from that? And is there a good rational reason to make those deviations? The next item is really relates to budget and cost estimation. So, when we're doing our design reviews, we're looking to see did the cost align with the intended outcome of the project? Like are we spending resources on something that are disproportionate to the benefit? We do constructability reviews. This is a really big part of it. Our staff represents a really wide range of professionals. So we have folks who maybe have a business background. We have lots of folks who have architecture, engineering backgrounds. Some come from the trades. Others come from like construction management. So when we do constructability reviews, a lot of different folks get their eyes on these projects, which is a huge benefit to the project itself. We also incorporate our CMGC partners when we have them, when we're so fortunate to have them on a project, and they bring like, how am I going to phase this? How does the sequencing work? Have our architects design something that may be difficult from a utility perspective? So it's a really holistic approach that we take to reviewing the drawings. We focus on safety and security. This is huge. So sometimes it's work sessions that we'll do with our public safety department to make sure that everything from camera placement to fencing to panic harbor, that all of that is dialed in and meets the district requirements. We incorporate stakeholder feedback, and those stakeholders can be anybody from like risk to teaching and learning. It could be public safety. Oftentimes it's maintenance. They're one of the major partners in our design reviews, and then other folks within the facilities development department. And then we pull in SMEs, or subject matter experts. So we've got a couple guys on staff that are like experts at door hardware. And you'd be kind of shocked at how many errors pop up on projects just from poor coordination with door hardware and access control, AV, things like that. So we pull in, it's not just the PM and the project coordinator doing a design review. It's a really deep bench. I would say on a project like Raleigh Hills, which is Eric's project, probably not uncommon to have 25 to 35 or more participants reviewing the drawings and specifications.
How do the teachers participate?
So that's a really good question. So teaching and learning, to the most part, represents our teaching staff. That's not always the case. Like in some cases, like Beaverton High School, there might be, let's say, like a CTE educator that is really integral to understanding how that program operates. But the district has TOSA, so Teachers on Special Assignment. So it might be like math, or it could be PE if it's like the elementary school level. They have expertise on what should be done in those facilities. We have to be careful not to design a program around one person's preference. So the education specifications and technical standards really help us, like, it's sort of a backstop, like, oh, is that like cool? Is that really applicable in this case? Is that the intent of the district? That's a good question.
For teachers too, there was kind of almost a parallel design review committee. So there were several teachers on the design review committee, and they're giving feedback, not so much on the drawings themselves, but more of a higher level, like
how does the building flow and
yeah, exactly. What do you think about this idea,
Yeah.
or these two ideas, and that type of thing?
Although not, and if you guys have questions, please, like you just did, please stop me, because I could talk about this for hours, but I don't. The other thing that's sort of somewhat related to design review process is that we typically have a design advisory committee, and that committee is made up of like the principal, custodial foreperson. It might include a couple of teachers that the principal thinks are good contributors or collaborators, community members like parents, or maybe a PTO member, right? So, and typically along this is the design review as it relates to like drawings and the infrastructure of the building and the design, but the softer pieces are also reviewed in those design advisory committee meetings.
Are the findings made public?
Not explicitly, like the way as it relates to, like we do meeting minutes and things like that. So we share that out with the folks that are on the committee and the principal. And generally they give updates to their community, but I wouldn't say that there's any
So they do give updates and
to their community. Yeah.
to their community.
Yeah.
Their, yeah.
Yeah, so like most principals like give a update, like I don't know, if it's monthly. Usually they're reaching out to their schools.
Would it be in their website, like if somebody wants to see something?
But these end up looking like as a spreadsheet that's like thousands of lines long of, oh, change, this call out to this page is wrong and fix it. It's not the type of thing we typically would share with people. It's not secret information. It's just not,
Public record,
it's not
if somebody
yeah,
has requested it.
Yeah.
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 that-
yeah, certainly.
We go to the next slide. So this is just a graphic, and you guys all have packets in front of you, so you can kind of dig into this. But really, this is this kind of describes if you're familiar with the typical design process, this will start to look familiar. So step one in the process is just the design phase, whether that's CDs, DD, or SD, for example. So the design team will complete their documents. They submit the design phase deliverable to us in step two. And then what we do is we distribute that via Bluebeam sessions to all of our stakeholders. And they have a couple weeks to put together comments on a spreadsheet. And like I said, this is like sometimes 20, 30, 40 people that are collaborating, putting comments in. And then what we do is we hold a design review meeting where we get, I wouldn't say everybody, we get a lot of those folks in a room, and we sometimes we're debating the merits of a comment, like oh, the front of the building should be on this street. Well, okay, but what you don't know is some other requirement, right? So not every comment is applicable, but every comment gets reviewed to determine if it's applicable to the project and how it might be incorporated and if it should. Like Aaron said, like sometimes these design reviews, like just a small project could be a couple of thousand lines of design review. Sometimes it's petty stuff like the spelling error or some nuanced item. Maybe a corner guard for a wall is not shown and it should be. But that's really the process, and it's a pretty elaborate process. Like you invest, I would say on the owner's end, we probably invest. I mean, if I'm looking at like Eric and myself and others, probably spend at least half of your time for 2 weeks digging into drawings, understanding what's in there, and providing feedback for our design professionals. Like I said, this also includes our partners. So like engineers, it could include our commissioning agent on HVAC for buildings. It might include our general contractor, the leadership team on the bond side. They're all invited to it. So that's a pretty good process. Then what we do is we distribute the design review comments so that all go back out to our engineers. They go out to basically anyone who's on the project. And then at that point, it goes back to step one. So if you're finishing SD and you've reached the distribute comments, the next step is the architect incorporates those comments during the next phase, and then then you start seeing those comments addressed. I didn't get into all the nuances here, but they update a spreadsheet. We get to check that they caught all those comments. It's a pretty thorough process. I will say that not to toot our own horn too much, but our architecture partners are like always really excited to work with us because we actually review the drawing. So a lot of owners are like, cool, what's the number? And they move on. And that's not the approach we take because we're going to live with this for many, many years. Any questions?
Yeah, you mentioned on the last slide about budget and cost estimation.
Yeah.
How do you have specific milestone points here where you cost estimated? Or?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, and I'm going to talk about more of a CMGC process because we get to have, I think we have better results as it relates to like cost estimates and understanding the design as it integrates with that. But generally what happens is when the design team releases their drawing, so step one, we would also have our CMGC part begin the pricing effort. And that's usually 2 to 3 weeks. The end dates don't always line up. And a lot of folks will get caught up on, well, but they're going to be owner comments. How do we incorporate those? Those owner comments are really like, they're not changing the structure of a building. They're usually nuanced issues. And so that gets picked up afterwards.
There's usually a third-party cost estimate.
Yeah, I was going to add,
But they-
especially on the larger projects with changes. So
Yeah.
we'll directly hire the cost estimator. The CMGC will be doing the cost estimate, and then we reconcile the two. They're doing it blind. And we sit down.
It's a really fun time.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're always formatted the same. So anyway, yeah, this is a process we're really proud of, and we review the process every couple years to see how we can improve it and bring more value. But this is something that I think really differentiates our group from a lot of others. Any other questions?
I'm gonna go train the other school districts how to do it.
Just got a load of money.
All right, next slide. The next item we're going to just chat about is our equity contracting, and this won't take us too long. We've been kind of talking about this throughout the year. Just as a reminder, our board goal is 15%. It's aspirational. I wouldn't say we interpret it as aspirational. We really push hard to achieve the target. One of the other board goals is diverse workforce development, and that's a little bit harder to represent, at least in how and how we report. But what I want to do is, if you go to the next slide as well, I just wanted to kind of point out kind of where we are right now, which the last report had. So anything that's in red, I just used so you could quickly see where we're below the 15% target. As a reminder, we don't discount, how do you put it? Like, there are trades that don't have minority participation, and we don't go to that extra effort to take that out of the equation. We just count all of it. And so we're going to trend slightly below where any other entity that would be deducting that.
It's contract value, not labor, or just labor.
It is the total contract value. Yeah. So like, if you're in high school is 200 million, that contract value, but yeah, it would be based off of the total contract.
So it includes all the air handlers and everything.
Everything. Yeah. Yep.
Do you go back and reconcile it then when you actually go through and get invoiced? Do you double?
Great question. We do it based on, we don't do it based on the total contract value. We do it each month when we pay them.
Okay.
We used to do it based on the contract value, and what we ran into was wild swings.
Yeah.
They're easy to explain, but they don't really tell the right
There's only
story. Yeah.
what's going on.
So I guess maybe about 14 months ago, we changed to reporting this based on monthly pay applications or invoices. So architects, engineers, contractors, all of that is lumped together. And if you look at the chart, sort of that peach flesh colored line that's the top, that represents our consultants, so architects, engineers. We have a little more control over that because of the way we hire at those organizations. And then the green line represents contractors, so like our partners Skanska, or Pence, or Howard S. Wright, folks like that. And then the blue line is really the average. And so the percentages are based off of the blue line when you're looking at it.
So do you have a system that tracks those subs then, or how do you keep track of that?
We've customized eBuilder ourselves, so it's not maybe as tricky as like I don't know the other. There's other proprietary softwares that will do that. We've got it set up where, like, when Skanska goes and enters their pay application, they're able to indicate all of the equity numbers in there.
Okay.
So it's not perfection, but it's a cost-effective way to accomplish the job. Yeah.
Have you guys, with all of the focus on this, have you gotten any pushback from the federal level on DEI programs yet?
Nope. We don't take any federal money.
Yeah.
Well, you do on the education side.
That's true. Yeah. And no, doesn't affect us at all.
And it's aspirational, like our.
That's not affects.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's aspirational, so it's not like it's
These are the things that keep.
Right.
us.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have procurement rules where you direct award to minority firms, or do you have to?
There are state rules that allow us to do that in certain cases. So the answer is kind of.
Yeah, ours is like 100,000 and under. You can direct award without going through a process.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Go to the next slide, Eric. So what I wanted to do was, I think we talked maybe about 6 months ago that our number was lower than where we had wanted it to be. I think around that time, it was like in the upper 13% area, low 14s. And so what we did was took some targeted action. I just want to briefly go through what that was. So it was pretty simple stuff. If I'm being honest, it was increasing staff awareness through training and development. We hosted a lunch and learn. We did a bunch of brainstorming. We just encouraged folks to reach out to their contracting partners. It's really low-hanging fruit sort of stuff, right? So that definitely helped. I think it raised awareness, and that was a big objective. We improved accuracy by implementing a portal. So eBuilder, we customized some processes ourselves and made it to where we could get better reporting. And that helped a good bit. We have high confidence in our numbers, and that sometimes helps us know that we have work we need to do or don't do. We've asked our staff, and they've done so by really increasing communication with our partners. So when we are working on a CMGC job, having early and frequent communication about how we are doing some of that outreach to subcontractors has helped a ton. And then just letting them know that it's important to us. They begin to mirror that now it's an important thing to them. Like just because it's in a contract or an RFP somewhere doesn't mean that it's something that they're looking at and tracking really closely.
How much of your RFP scoring?
It depends on the RFP, right? Like we did a big RFP at the start of our bond for CMGC services, a variety of AE services. And I don't remember what the percentages were at the time, but we have the ability to manipulate that to some extent. Yeah. A lot of times what we're looking for is what is their response to our RFP, and like, are they showing how they would invest in that kind of outreach and buying into it with us. Yeah. Because we can't do it alone.
No.
That's for sure. Let's see. We refined processes and procedures to more closely align with the board goals. So now when you submit, you guys probably aren't eBuilder experts, but when you submit your CMGC project proposal, there's a section there that like outline, like your PM enters the percent of the contract that they believe will be aligned with the board equity goals. And it's just frankly, it's just a reminder. It's like, oh, did we not have that conversation? Maybe I should check again, right? And then we've been strategic when we can in selecting A&E partners and construction contracting partners to begin to align with that. And it's not every project that you can do that, but there are times when if there's the right partner and they are COVID certified, and it just makes a lot of sense to align them with the project. Any questions about that? Okay. The next item that I'll just go through quickly is one of our goals is, how do we connect the bond to teaching and education in our schools? And one of the ways we do that is through an internship program. And basically we put this in our RFP, that what we're looking for is partners who will offer job shadows or internships, informational interviews, things like that. And so although it's in our RFP, it's easy to for folks to just generally check the box and move on. So what we started 2 years ago, this will be our third summer doing this, is having a high school summer internship program. Our first year, I put the stats on here. Our first year, we didn't visit any classrooms. It was very basic, not a lot of outreach. We just posted it out there and we got 8 applicants. We interviewed 6 students and we hired 3, and they were all you worked at the district for us, right? So it was our first foray into it, and we learned a lot. We had really great students that year. It was awesome. And then last year, we really kind of upped the game. We went and visited classrooms. We engaged partners. So we had Skanska and Pence. And I'm trying to remember who the other 2 partners were last year, but we had 4 partners. Brick and DLR, yeah, great. And we ended up hiring 8 students last year. So 4 at the district and 4 with our partners. And then this year, we really upped it. So we visited 10 classrooms, which was more, that's almost 2 classrooms at every high school. We did a video, so we tried to market it to students. We pushed a lot out through social media. We got 53 applicants, which was awesome. We did 24 interviews, which is exhausting, but it's exhausting, but afterwards you're like, well, that was still a fun experience. And we made 18 offers this year. So 6 of those are students who will work for the district, and 12 of those are students that will work for architecture, engineering, contracting, and 1 subcontractor this year. So I would say that, you know, kind of the big picture here for us is that the program continues to grow, and teaching and learning has really jumped in to help support us where we might not have the same visibility into how to recruit students and keep them engaged. But it's a fun program. Yeah. Any other questions?
18, the number that you were shooting for.
We were shooting
No.
for 16.
No, I think I have a project that would benefit from a couple students working on it, and it'll be up to 18.
The next program goal was our modernization program. So I believe this is an idea that Aaron had while bond planning of doing this modernization program, where the intent is that we're going to touch every school in the district with this bond. And we allocated funds for basically every school in the district, and there's a whole kind of metric that went along to how much funds out of this bucket of money went to each school. And then we broke it down by how many schools can we impact each year feasibly from our standpoint and kind of from a construction and labor standpoint. And the idea is that we are, we're implementing things that are trying to impact the student experience at every school. Positively impact, whether it's, through innovation or, emotional health, just engaging students, letting them, basically making everybody feel like they're impacted by this bond. Progress on completing this goals. We had, a large undertaking kind of the first summer after the bond, which was implementing AV and tech upgrades and standardizing it throughout the district. So basically in-class technology for teaching. So if a teacher is in a classroom, and this is great for like substitutes as well, right? They can be at a classroom at Aloha High School. They know how to use the technology. Now they're subbing at Errol Hassel Elementary School, and they have the same technology there that they had at Aloha High School. And so they can really be more effective, and it definitely provided a lot of upgrades in a lot of our schools. So we did that the first summer, and then to date we've completed over 60 individual projects at 21 of our schools. We still have 3 to 4 more rounds of schools that we have to that we've got allocated for the rest of the bond, and we kind of chunk off 5-6 schools per class or per school year. And we end up doing multiple projects at a school quite often, where we're running multiple contracts, whether it's finishes and flooring, whether, I listed a few different types of projects that we've done, playground upgrades, restroom updates, a lot of libraries needed updating throughout the school that we've impacted, main offices, large space AV upgrades, gyms and cafeterias where there's really not a good way for a gym teacher to communicate and present to a whole class, and we're making those upgrades. But we go to each school as we get to the next round, meet with the principal, meet with kind of their stakeholders, come up with a list of their desired projects, and then we evaluate and decide what we can fit within their budgets, and they kind of prioritize on their side first, and then we work on implementing those different projects at each school. A lot of it is finish based. There's some furniture stuff in like libraries and that kind of thing, front offices. There was the picture at the beginning of the presentation of the library at Barnes. Here's another photo of the same where here we redid kind of all the finishes, new circulation desks, new shelving, refinished, all new furniture. That project turned out really nice.
Their library, there's like the heart of like the school and community and stuff, so they were all super happy about the project.
Yeah. And then on the right, that's a project that we've got this upcoming summer at El Monica. One of the projects we're doing there, we're renovating their front office, staff room, adding an extra single user. If you've ever walked into El Monica, you kind of come in the front entrance and you turn, and then it's still like a skinny, long kind of space where it's like you've got your one desk, and then right behind them there's another desk for the principal secretary, and another desk kind of, and it's really not very inviting. And so like here we're redoing kind of the whole internal space to the front office at El Monica this summer. But yeah, we've done a lot of different kind of variety of projects, and I think it's a really successful, although intensive project for our team that works on this particular program.
What are the ages of those two schools?
How old is Barnes?
There are sections of Barnes that are darn near 100 years old. The original section is very old. I don't know about, Monica's not that old. No. I'd say Monica's like 70.
Yeah. I was gonna say like the 60s, 1960s building at El Monica.
That's old.
So with the technology, is the district building in the replacement cost into their regular operating budget then, or how are you gonna handle that replacement?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Thank you.
That
was a short answer.
Any other questions about the modernization program?
Okay, the last one. I'm gonna fly through this because we're gonna catch up on time here. So one of the board goals here is to include efficiency and sustainability features. Energy costs have just been going crazy lately, and there's no end in sight to that. So the more that we can operate these buildings with using less energy, the better. So, maximizing passive energy measures like insulation, daylighting, making sure the buildings are oriented to take the most advantage of daylighting. We do this building on the south base of it will have like, I forget what they're called, but these vertical things on the outside. What are those called? Sunshade. I don't know. Screen. It's some kind of sunshade screen that basically is allowing the light to get in when you want it to get in and blocking it when you don't want it to get in at a weird angle, and really just helping the overall performance of the building. Jason talked about life cycle costing, so that was a huge thing we did on this building. Upgrading LED lighting, so like all the seismic projects we're going through and doing a ton of, Mountain View and Meadow Park. When we go in, we're ripping out these ceilings, we're putting LED lights back in, which is a great thing because we're also getting extra money for that. We're getting ETO dollars, SB 1149 dollars. When we're going in and replacing a roof, we're upgrading the insulation at the same time. We're getting that paid for by SB 1149. They're paying a lot right now for insulation. So anytime we can include that in the project, and it becomes a very small investment to do it when we're bringing in the additional dollars to pay for it and saving money on the operational side of things. We're doing that as much as we possibly can. Low maintenance things, the polished concrete, you saw that throughout here in high school. Native planting, water is just water rates are getting raised this year. They're getting like doubled, and we need to stop irrigating as much as possible. So more native planting would do better. Flexibility is a big thing. I noticed that walking around Beaver High School here, you can see all the cable trays all over the building and the conduit and everything, which is amazing because the number of projects I've done, we have to go in and add cabling for cameras or access control. You spend half the cost of the project is doing cabling, and so having those cable trays in there makes a huge difference. And the building will be able to grow with technology. And with that, let's jump into our financial report, and I'll cover the financial report.
it should be another tab in the,
So while Eric struggles a little with that, I'll go get started here. It's all in the handout for you guys. So we did complete the bond sale in mid-May, so it's good news. We did get a bond premium. Tell you exactly how much. It was after we had produced the report and everything, but I'm just going to read this straight from our business officer. So on May 13th, the district sold 161 million in general obligation bonds, Series 2025A, and 242 million in general obligation bonds, Series 2025B, to finance the second phase of capital construction and improvements related to the $723 million bond measure. These will be issued on May 28th, and will have a final maturity in June of 2047 and June 2053. The Series A are deferred interest bonds with interest yields from 3.9% to 5.3%, payable only at maturity. The Series 2025B are current interest bonds with an interest rate of 5% and issued at yields from 3% to 4.7%. This resulted in approximately 8.76 million in premiums for the district. The funds from these bonds will be invested corresponding to cash flow needs of the bond construction and in line with our investment policy. So in comparison, the yields on the previous bond sale had a wider range of 1.7% to 4.9%, depending on the length of the bonds. And the current interest bonds with the same coupon rate of 5% resulted in a larger premium last time of 16.6 million. So anyway, so we got the money today. So it's good. Interest rate's not quite as good, premium not quite as good.
Decent rate though.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's a
Yeah,
decent-
yeah, we really lucked out. We have a good credit rating as a district.
Triple A is a district or double
I think it's double A, yeah. And that mostly has to do with declining enrollment. More than the other thing. That's like the number one reason.
A? It drives me crazy. It's their geo bonds. It's like the enrollment has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Anyway, yeah, it was very, I know our CFO was nervous just because of the timing, like with the day of the bond sale, there's just
Really good.
crazy stuff was happening in the bond market. So we feel happy with that.
Although people don't want to buy treasuries and bonds.
Yeah, no, there was good.
Local bonds are worth more.
Yep, good strong interest out there. So that was excellent. When you go to the executive summary, so oops, back page. So I mentioned the bond sale there. Beaverton High School, we just talked about. Raleigh Hills is on schedule and is approximately 50% complete. So Raleigh Hills is going very well. That'll be done here, scheduled to wrap up in January. So it's going well.
Was that the original schedule?
Yep.
Wow.
Right on schedule. Some challenges and opportunity. We've been getting a lot more competition lately on projects, which is good. Very good for our projects. It will be interesting to see if, after the elections, if that trend stays up with all the other school districts passing laws, right? We did not get an SRGP grant for McKinley. That was unfortunate, although not entirely surprising. There's a lot of, the positive spin to that is the reason we're not getting these is because our buildings are not unsafe relative to most school districts in the state. We just don't have unreinforced masonry buildings anymore, and that's where, if you look down the list of the awards, that's what they're all going to. And then we mentioned the internship program, so that's going well. Skip ahead a couple of pages here. There's not really, go a couple more. There's not really a lot to say on any of these unless you have any questions. I'll point out a couple that Randy had questions on. So, is there a way to zoom in on these, Eric?
Nope.
Yes. We'll go to the next page.
Next page.
And then zoom in. Yeah, okay, that's good. So the unfortunate thing of this report is it's hard to convey all the information. So Southridge High School HVAC. There's a whole, there's a whole series of budget transfers that go into what that looks like. But what happened here is we've closed out the project. We just transferred $1 million out of the project and closed out it. They finished $1 million below budget. It's moved the money back into the deferred maintenance program. That's what that transfer is for. The one below it, the landscape and site work improvements. This is a project that I'm actually managing, and we're just doing a lot of like parking lot repairs across the district, replacing sidewalks, doing all sorts of concrete and asphalt all over the place. So it's just increasing the budget as we find more projects and more issues to deal with. Westview High School stadium turf replacement. That one is also being closed out right now, which I believe is why it's on the list here. That project looks like there's been a big budget increase, and there has been, but it's happened in multiple kind of phases. This is literally replacing the football field. A lot of existing conditions as far as drainage that we had to deal with when we did it. It was a lot of extra work. And included in that project also that got added on was replacing the tennis courts. So that was a whole project in itself. And I'll show you guys that project next month when we go out to Westview. That'll be a fun one to talk about. It's very challenging. Next page. So the distributed antenna system, what we did was we allocated that unallocated budget within that security upgrades project to the distributed antenna system. The distributed antenna system is a project we're doing concurrently with the security Leo project. It's actually the same contractors doing all the work, and it's just going around and basically installing antennas in the school to allow for first responders radios to work. So actually a compliance issue that we were not compliant, but now we're getting that all updated. So if there is, some kind of emergency or something, we'll have all these radios working in all the schools. And then I think that pretty much covers it. As far as the financial report, unless anybody has any
Yeah,
questions.
just one question. Just one line item kind of jumped out at me. It was 10.041, it's under sunset modernization. It's got a commitment that's significantly larger than the budget, which leads to a very large negative uncommitted budget. Is that correct? And that's a hole we're going to have to fill, or is that?
So the project budget is 1.4 million.
What
Committed to date 11 million. That's a mistake.
Okay.
Extra one there.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. What's 10 million?
Yeah, we'll catch. We're doing,
This summer we're doing gender neutral bathrooms at Sunset High School. Yeah.
yeah.
That's fine. It was more just the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Randy, you should cop out. Okay. Well then, we can jump on to the next to the report. Scroll all the way down to the updates. Go to the next one. Next one. Okay, there we go. So we talked about Beaverton High School. We can skip Beaverton. Eric, do you want to give an update on Rolling Hills?
Yeah, things are going really well out there. We have kind of working from the Shoals Ferry in. We've got all of our utilities in on Shoals Ferry. We're setting up to start pouring our new sidewalks and everything there, and then we'll come through with repaving the rest of Shoals Ferry. The building itself, we have, I believe, we've got I would say 95 to 98% of our concrete all poured in the building. There's just a few small pieces left to come, like stair treads and that kind of thing. But we've got framing completed in about 75%. So all of the rooms are framed out in the building. We started roofing, putting on our roofing membrane this last week. We've got our brick facade is we're about 15% done on the brick out there. So a lot of the base and we've got one full wall. So we're progressing really well and going to be starting to get towards site work in the next month or so. Still on track to complete in January and move in and be ready for fall 26 for all students and the school to be functional. Yeah, those pictures are a little older. You don't really see any green, hardly any green board up anymore. Everything's either got the membrane on it or brick going in. And you can see the aerial view there.
Allen Transportation, we completed schematic design, I guess about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we've been working through the schematic design cost estimates. They're looking pretty good. Currently, construction is scheduled to start in March of 26 and should be complete about 10 or 11 months later. That's just a rendering of the current pre-engineered metal building that we're pursuing.
Stoller has gone really well. We outfitted it with furniture 2 weeks ago. The gym is all complete. Everything's we're just kind of at punch list work right now. So everything there is on track, on budget, ready to be done and in use come the fall.
So we'll tour this next month.
Yeah.
Oak Hills is another one we're going to tour next month, but we're just getting started out there. So that's a pretty current picture of where we're at for installing the 4 new classrooms.
Cooper Mountain Elementary, we were doing an office addition out front. We've mobilized out there. That's relatively accurate to the status. We started demolition of some of the exterior walls on the existing entry. We've got kind of some temporary barriers up there, but we're on schedule. I just saw an updated schedule this morning for being substantially complete before staff comes back in the fall.
So Aloha High School, a lot going on out there this summer. The 2 main projects being the softball and baseball artificial turf project, which is going to start here any day now, as soon as we get permits, and then the HVAC project, which will be this summer, and that'll actually be phased over the next 2 years. A lot going on there. Capital Center, actually nothing really going on right now. HVAC is done now, and then our other projects will be next summer. And then our other really big projects this summer is completing our 2 seismic upgrades that we have underway. So Mountain View Middle School, we will be doing the second of the 2 summers of the seismic upgrade there. And then at Meadow Park, we'll begin the first of our 2 summers of seismic upgrades. And then Cedar Park will be next summer, but it's nice because it's the same sign as Meadow Park. So we're gonna get everything figured out on Meadow Park. It'll, do that 4 times. I'm not going to read through all the modernization, but there's a lot of modernization projects going on.
Yeah.
Big ones being Whitford and Sunset, the gender neutral bathrooms of both of those.
Pictures earlier. Highland Park, see pictures from library renovations we're doing there.
And then just all sorts of deferred maintenance too. One of the big ones being stage improvements at all of the middle school, well, most of the middle schools plus South Edge High School, going in and replacing lighting and the different components to the stage there, the sound system.
That was an ask.
Yeah, yes, it was. And the security upgrades, this is what I spend most of my time on, but this is going to every school. There's installing cameras, access control, intrusion systems. We're doing distributed antenna systems. We're doing paging systems. We're doing fencing across the district. And this is a massive group of projects. We have a lot of really good people working on these projects with us, and it's helping getting a lot done here. Oops. Nutrition services, mostly what we're doing right now. Well, we finished the water bottle filler project, installed 75 water bottle fillers across the district. So at least one at all schools.
Kids are hydrated.
Yes, they are.
Very happy. That's what I hear from the principals. But
That's
they're
awesome.
very happy.
And then we're getting started on the design for the Beaver Acres cafeteria, which will start next year. And then sped upgrades, we're doing, this is referring to at Rock Creek Elementary, we're adding adding some bathrooms adjacent to their ISC classroom. And if you want to go back to that other one, then you can see the final slide, which is the upcoming oh, here's just links. You guys can just go look at those. Those are videos. I do encourage you to watch the videos. Nate does a really excellent job on these videos, and I shouldn't admit it, but I learned stuff when I watch these videos. He does a really interesting job of putting the videos together. Like, he interviews different people that I don't ever talk to. They're great. And then here we have the upcoming meetings, and for all of next year. June 18th, we're looking at doing the tour. We're going to meet at Westview. We'll do like a little barbecue or something, and then we'll tour Westview, Stoller, and Oak Hills, and go back to we'll hop on a school bus. And then those are the meeting dates for next year. Any questions? Go for it.
Okay. Today we were at the coffee chat, and there were a lot of parents that Jacob has met.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one question that I think that relates to us, is that they wanted to know what facility upgrades that are going to be done this summer.
Okay.
Is there a place that they can go to find that out, or
We can do that. We'll get it put on the website.
that would be great.
We're doing a lot, actually.
Yes,
And
that would.
so
And I
we'll add it to the website.
So when you're there, you or Casey, when you come to the board meeting, if you can talk about that would be great.
Oh, sure.
Here,
Okay.
You can go here.
I can do
and
that.
you can-
I'll be at the next board meeting, so I'll throw that in there.
Yeah,
And we'll get it added to the website.
that's excellent. And then, the other question I had was, I see that in Stoller you're doing a field. I heard that you guys are doing something in Stoller with the outdoor field. There's a smaller field there.
Yep.
Is there a possibility that field can be made into a cricket field, because the population around
Oh,
there
wow.
haven't asked for it? Even the vice principal, he mentioned that a lot of community members are asking for it. Cricket is very famous in Australia, India, Pakistan,
Yeah.
Africa. They stay up in the night to watch the games. It would be such a
Yeah.
fun for that community
Okay.
around that area. So if that can be done.
I'll have to ask about that.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
They did a pickleball court at Stoller with the gym.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Which is something they wanted there, so,
Yeah.
I'll have to ask about it.
So cricket was one of the ask. I mean, yeah, I even asked Dr. Balderas, and he has been also being asked by the community members
Oh,
and stuff.
okay.
So that's another one. And then, and I think I've mentioned this in the meeting, but if you can, in our future meetings, if we can find out, when I walk into the schools, a lot of people, principals and administrators, one thing that they ask is about HVAC.
Yeah.
So if we can get a status report and what is the process in finding out, okay, this school really needs an HVAC because
Sure.
students are complaining, administrators are complaining, so can we have something that they can even find, okay, that's where our school falls in this whole
Okay.
district or
Yeah.
something like that, And when we go for the next bond, maybe we can put in more money for something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, that's something we can totally do. You mentioned that the other day.
Yes.
We can put that together.
That would be, thank you, that's all.
Done? Done. All right. Did I mention this is my last meeting? So I know I did, and I know I mentioned Keith, but Josh becomes the vice chair. So just so you know, sorry, I forgot to mention that. The next meeting is June 18th. We meet at Westview for project tours. Any open issues? I don't think we do. A reminder that beginning with the September 10th meeting, we'll need topics for this meeting. So if you have topics, you can send them to me and Keith or the whole committee, whatever you feel like doing. But just so we can get some things in the basket for Aaron. And then everybody have a good summer. Have a great summer. Thank you. And the meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Oh, yes.
You getting thirsty?
Does it sound like it wasn't?
Listen, you should bring Randy.
That's the